Right. So we are live, and we're going to give it just about a minute or so to get started. We had a lot of people register for this webinar today, and so definitely want to make sure everyone has a moment to hop on and listen into the discussion for this presentation. And this presentation is really going to be focused around the portfolios that you investors own, as many of you invested in offerings that we have available for StartEngine Private. We want to talk about those and also talk about some new things and new product enhancements that we've made as well, so that you investors can track performance of your portfolios yourself. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But before we get started, just wanted to quickly go around the room and do some introductions. My name is Josh Amster. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at StartEngine. I'll be moderating today's discussion, and we've got three members of our StartEngine Private sales team here with us as well, and we'll go around the room so they can introduce themselves. So, Brennan, do you mind quickly just introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Brennan Ballou. I'm a senior private equity associate. I've been with StartEngine since 2024, and I'm located in Austin, Texas.
Great. And Tyler?
My name is Tyler Whistler. I'm located in Dallas, Texas, and I'm a vice president of sales here at StartEngine.
Great. And James?
Hi, everybody. My name is James Monroe. I'm based in Jupiter, Florida. I'm a senior private equity associate with StartEngine, and I've been with the company since July of 2024.
Perfect. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you being a part of this discussion today. So, as I mentioned, this conversation will be focusing on StartEngine Private and the offerings that we've had on our platform, some news related to them, and then we also want to talk about some product enhancement that we've recently made. And show you all as well what that looks like. So we've got a few slides that we'll go over as a team here. And if you have any questions as we go along, please leave those as comments here on the side. We're going to have time at the end of this presentation to go through questions that each of you have. So please, as we go along, submit those questions for us. I'll be looking at those, and then I'll be posing those questions to our team members. So please feel free to leave those questions. All right, so if we want to go to the next slide. So as many of you know, but just as an introduction, what is StartEngine Private? This is a new investment opportunity that we as a company have brought forth in the last couple of years. StartEngine traditionally was a platform that helped early stage companies raise capital. And there were a lot of Series A, seed round offerings in technology companies that we provided on StartEngine. And about a couple of years ago, we introduced a new investment opportunity with StartEngine Private. And that is providing access to late stage private companies like Epic Games, like SpaceX, like Perplexity, and offering those investments to accredited investors only. So these are companies that have been backed by some of the top VCs in the country. They are widely recognized names, and we're really excited to be able to offer investments into companies like this for very manageable minimums, sometimes as low as $15,000. And that is very unique, because typically if you're going to be investing in a company like this, the barrier to get in is extremely high. It could be millions of dollars. So to be able to provide access to these late stage private companies, which we coined pre-IPO companies, is very, very exciting, and has been met obviously with a ton of demand from our community. So that is what StartEngine Private is, and why it exists.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about just kind of the modern investors portfolio and where we see things moving and where the market is kind of going. BlackRock, they're the largest investment manager in the world. Larry Fink, you can see the quote there. The future portfolio is going to look more like 50-30-20 stocks, bonds, and private assets, which includes infrastructure, private credit, real estate, other alternatives. So 50% of your portfolio we see going into equities, just the regular stock market, 30% in fixed income like bonds, and then 20% goes into alternative assets. 10% of that in pre-IPO investing like StartEngine Private, crowdfunding, and then 10% in other alternatives. So those are other alternative investments that make up a part of the portfolio. And in the modern portfolio, we've seen a shift away from the traditional assets and diversification into a larger percentage of your portfolio going into alternative assets. And we've seen a surge in pre-IPO investing in recent years. And then, so how's it going with StartEngine Private? So obviously StartEngine Private has grown significantly since it launched in 2023, and we've had a lot of success so far. We've had 75 plus pre-IPO offerings, 73.5% of offerings sold out. We've had 111 million invested since Q3 2023, which is when Private went live. The average check size is 25K for these investments. We have new diversified funds. So rather than just investing in an individual offering like Perplexity, you can invest in that as well, but you can also invest in a diversified fund that splits your investment between typically 6 to 8 companies, which gives you 8 exit events rather than just 1. And then we have exclusive funds for IRA investing, so using Roth and traditional funds, as well as qualified purchasers. So some exclusive offerings there. And we've seen it's been a huge success in the last couple of years, and we're excited to grow further as we continue to expand our offerings.
All right, so I'll be talking about the IRA investing and the exclusive funds that we've launched on our platform. One of the biggest opportunities we're seeing right now with our investors is that they're using existing IRA accounts at like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Morgan Stanley to invest in the private deals. And we partnered with Equity Trust, who's a self-directed IRA provider that allows you to use those existing IRA accounts to participate in the offerings that we have on StartEngine Private. There's currently over about 18 trillion that is sitting in US IRAs, and people don't realize that they're allowed to use it for private equity. You have to go through what's considered a self-directed IRA provider, since the brokerages like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, they won't necessarily allow you to make directed investments into private equity through those accounts. Once we started showing investors this options, as you can see on the chart to the left there, the IRA investments exploded and is up 593% since August. And the chart also just shows the increase month over month has grown dramatically since we made it available as an option on the platform. Also, if someone invests $20,000 or more in 12 months from opening the self-directed IRA account, we cover all of the self-directed IRA account fees with Equity Trust, which is something that many other places aren't offering at the moment. And the key takeaway here is that if someone wants to invest, but they don't want to use taxable funds, the IRA route is usually the easiest way to get started, and they can keep the qualified benefits of the tax advantaged accounts and still get access to these private offerings. We can go to and so this slide is just a quick snapshot of what's happening in the private market right now. These are companies that investors can't buy on the public markets yet, and there are offerings that we've had on the platform in the past that we're seeing some great press releases about in the news. Anthropic just announced 70 billion in revenue projected by 2028. Cerebras just raised over $1 billion at an estimated $8.1 billion valuation. Databricks announced a $100 million partnership with OpenAI. Lambda Labs has a multi-billion dollar deal with a B with Microsoft, and Perplexity raised an additional $200 million at a $20 billion valuation. Ripple completed a 500 million valuation, or a 500 million round at a $40 billion valuation. And Stripe, one of the qualified purchaser offerings we've had on the platform, is valued at almost 170 billion or 107 billion, which is higher than its peak in 2021.
Sweet. Thank you, James. So once you pick out your first investment or your next offering, after we complete the accredited investor verification, we receive your funds. You'll be able to see the overview of all your investments. And the new feature that we just launched here at StartEngine is that you can actually see the percent gain or loss that you currently have in real time. So we partnered with Caplight to provide this information for all of our accredited investors. And on the next slide, we can see the graph. So as you start to, invest and, over the next few years, you can track the progress of the price in real time. So Caplight uses a data feed from institutional investors, asset managers, and brokers in real time to provide this data. The valuation is mostly for pre-IPO companies and venture-backed private companies. So this allows users to value investments over time, monitor portfolio changes, and gain deeper insights into liquidity and price movements for privately held stocks. Also, another feature that we're going to enable soon is a news feed. So if you wanted to see recent news, valuation increases, partnerships, et cetera, that will be available to as well through Caplight.
Okay, great. Appreciate that, guys. So just to reiterate what each of them were touching on, we're really believers in the 50-30-20 principle that Larry Fink has been talking a lot about, with 20% of an individual investor's assets allocated to alternative investments, and of that 20%, 10% specifically for private equity, which is what we offer here. And so that principle is something that we are talking a lot about with investors. And so trying to take 10% of an investor's assets and allocate them into private equity. And you can do so in many ways, with single offerings, with the funds that we have as well that Brennan touched on. You have an ability to use IRA dollars, 401ks that you can allocate into these offerings. And also, we are, as Tyler showed you, trying to put in more enhancements to our dashboards that will allow you to track how your investments are performing. Because I think that's obviously a very important thing that investors are wanting to see is, hey, I put some money into an offering or two. What's the status of that? How, has it gained money on paper? Has it lost money? And that dashboard now has enhancements added to it that are going to allow you to better track that, as Tyler showed. So those are, just some of the things that we wanted to show to everybody today during the conversation. There have been some questions that are coming in as the presentation has been going along. So figured I would start to go through these questions for the team. And again, if you do have any, please feel free to submit those as comments here on the side, and we'll go through these and answer them one by one. So first one, it looks like is for you here, James. Are you saying that we can invest in StartEngine's pre-IPO offerings using our own IRA or 401k accounts from, say, Schwab?
You can use the funds that are in the IRA or 401k accounts at Schwab. You would have to open the self-directed IRA account at Equity Trust through the integration with StartEngine. And then you would transfer the funds from the Roth, traditional, or the rollover 401k that's currently at Schwab to Equity Trust to maintain that qualified tax status of the account. And then you could use those funds for the investments that are on StartEngine.
And how do you get that set up? Is there a way to get it set up through your dashboard? What's the best way to start to go through that process?
It's extremely simple, actually, since we integrated with Equity Trust. If you're on the StartEngine website, there's an option for using your IRA to invest, and you would select a StartEngine IRA account and go through the process to add that additional investment account to your existing StartEngine profile. It'll simultaneously open up an account with Equity Trust at the same time. And then once that account is open, you could visit your portfolio on the StartEngine website and select automatic transfer. And then you would request your existing account information at, say, Charles Schwab, and it would pull the funds from that account to Equity Trust for any of the investments that are on the StartEngine platform.
Great. Thanks, James. Tyler, question here about qualified purchaser funds. Can you elaborate a little bit further on what is a qualified purchaser fund?
Sure. So a qualified purchaser is any individual that is worth over $5 million. In order to prove that, you're going to have real estate, statements, value of ownership, broker statements, financial statements, anything to prove that you're worth over $5 million.
Great. And are there typical minimums or any differences with those offerings compared to the other funds that StartEngine offers?
Well, the minimums vary between the accredited investor funds because the accredited investor funds are limited to 100 spots for each offering, versus the qualified purchaser funds we can technically sell to an unlimited amount of people. So the minimums may be lower depending on the offerings that we have and the allocation available.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Tyler. Brennan, regarding the IRA investments, are all of the StartEngine Private offerings open to IRA investments, and are there specific offerings that are exclusive to IRAs?
Yes, so all the StartEngine Private offerings are available to be invested in through an IRA. For any of the individual offerings, most of them it just has IRA as an option. And then if you have one set up or need to set it up, you can choose that as your profile and then invest through it that way. We do have some IRA exclusive offerings, such as Cerebras IRA or Salmonova IRA. Those are only available for using those tax advantage funds. We have had previous offerings in the past that were using regular funds, but these specific offerings would be exclusive to IRA. You also will see with the funds, sometimes we have a one page for regular funds using wire transfer, credit card, ACH, and then we have the exact same allocation of the funds, so nothing is changing about the allocation or the minimum. Typically, it would just be available for IRA, so we have both options there.
James, back to you regarding equity trust fees. Can you cover that one more time about what investors should expect on the fees with equity trusts, and when those fees are covered by StartEngine, and how the fees may be credited?
Definitely. So you won't be charged any fees initially when you create the equity trust account. What will happen is if you haven't submitted the $20,000 within 12 months from when you open the self-directed IRA account with Equity Trust, at that point down the road, you will be charged the fees by Equity Trust just for the initial account setup, the annual account fee, and any wire transfer fees for any of the investments that you made. And you do have the option to pay those fees, I believe, with a credit card instead of using retirement funds directly through the Equity Trust platform.
Thanks, James. Tyler, question here. Are all investments on StartEngine's pre-IPO offerings liquid until the company goes public?
Yeah, so as of right now, the two primary ways to exit a position is one, through an IPO. In that instance, we'll have your shares transferred to the broker account, whichever one you use personally. The second way right now is if the company ever got acquired, we'll just send you a cash payment for whatever the buyout price is right now.
Great. Brennan, a question around someone that already has a 401k account with their own company. Is that person able to use those funds for StartEngine's pre-IPO offerings without transferring it out to our IRA provider?
Yes. So if you have, and obviously, check with your self-directed IRA company before doing it, just to confirm that they will custody those assets. We always recommend that. But we do have an option for existing IRAs. So if you have a self-directed IRA that you've already invested in these alternative assets or in private equity through, you can just link that to StartEngine, and then we'll have a transfer so you can invest in that. You are not required to set up an equity trust self-directed IRA if you already have one. I would just confirm that your self-directed IRA can hold those investments, and if they can, then yes, you can just link your existing self-directed IRA and invest that way.
James, question for you. What is the criteria for being an accredited investor?
So the criteria for being verified as an accredited investor is there's 3 different ways you can verify. You can either do it based off your income, and the requirements are $200,000 gross income if you're verifying as an individual. If you're verifying with joint tax returns or with your wife or something along those lines, the requirement increases to 300,000 for gross income. You can also provide verification of $1 million or more in assets, excluding your primary residence. It can be from retirement accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, real estate investments that you're not using as your primary residence, or if you're a licensed financial representative with your Series 7, 65, one of those licenses, then you could also be verified as an accredited investor through that route as well.
Thanks, James. Tyler, how diversified should an investor be if they're building a private portfolio? 3 investments, 5 investments? What do you typically talk about with investors on this topic?
So you can't use a cookie cutter approach when it comes to diversification. We have to use suitability information and personalize the recommendation for each client. Some people may already own outside assets in the private markets, so we have to measure what you're currently doing, and then we can build a custom plan and make individual recommendations for you. So if this is something that you want to explore, I would urge you to set a meeting with one of the private markets associates here, and we can help you.
Great. Thanks, Tyler. Brennan, which sector has performed the strongest on the platform thus far? Is it a specific industry? Is it AI, fintech, crypto? Any performance results that you're noticing?
Yeah, the good thing is we've had performance results that have been positive in multiple sectors. Now, obviously, we've had a lot of AI offerings on the platform, since that's been kind of the way that the market has been moving in recent months. But we have seen AI perform very well. We've also had robotics, financial technology, as well as space technology. Those are other sectors that we're diversifying into, because we want to give investors the option to invest in multiple industries rather than just in a single one. But all that to say, yes, AI has performed well. We've also seen robotics perform well, space technology, as well as cybersecurity.
Great. James, questions about the fees. What are the fees to an investor when they invest in a new StartEngine Private offering?
So how the fee structure is set up with the StartEngine Private offerings is a little bit different than the crowdfunding and the Reg A offerings that are on the StartEngine platform. We don't charge any transaction fees, commissions, ongoing management fees, and we recently removed the carried interest from a majority of our live offerings that are on the platform and upcoming offerings that will be launching in the next few months. How we charge fees is by putting a premium on the price per share that you pay as the investor versus where we purchase the shares at before we make them available to you on the StartEngine Private platform.
Great, thanks. Thanks, James. Tyler, question around the valuations. How do investors determine if a valuation is fair with an investment that they're looking at?
Yeah, so on each individual offering page, we actually list out the previous rounds of where the share price was at and the current value of that round at that time. And then you can kind of compare it to the price that you were getting in at. And you can also use outside resources that you can discuss with your private markets associate to determine if that valuation is fair or it falls within your suitability recommendations.
And Brennan, we see that the Perplexity offering has been sold out. Will there be any other offerings of Perplexity in the future?
Yeah, great question. So basically the way it works is we've had multiple offerings on the platform for individual companies. So like we mentioned about earlier in the presentation, we are limited in the Reg D offerings to 100 investors per opportunity. That can be 100 per share class. So we can have 100 preferred and 100 common, as well as 100 IRA spots. So the answer is sometimes. So if we do have an offering that sells up and investors invest above the minimum before we hit the 100 spots, then yes, we can have subsequent offerings. For example, Perplexity had a total of 3 individual offerings, and we were still under the 100 investor limit, or we used a different class of shares like preferred. Another way to do that is using the IRA as well. So if you see an offering on the platform that you like and it is sold out, you can reach out to one of us. We'll put you on an interest list, and then we'll reach out to you in the future if we are able to make that live, because it is possible.
Thanks, Brennan. James, a question around more detail around how the funds work on StartEngine. Can you explain those a little bit more? If one company has an exit, does that portion of the fund liquidate? How does the liquidations work if you invest in one of the funds that has multiple assets in it compared to a single asset offering that StartEngine may offer?
That's a great question, because a lot of the investors are huge fans of the funds, since they give you exposure to multiple companies through one investment at a much more manageable minimum investment amount than if you were to go and hand select 8 different companies into one at a time. It would cost you anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000, and with the funds you're able to get access to 8 for anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000. How the liquidity events would work for the funds is, for example, with the Catalyst fund that we have right now, if Perplexity, which is one of the holdings, was to have an exit, you would receive a disbursement from the fund based off of the terms of the exit, whether it's an IPO or an acquisition. Then the other 7 companies would remain in the fund until they go through exits for those individual companies as well.
Perfect. Thanks, James. We've only got like a minute or 2 left, but we have gotten a lot of individual questions that people have about setting up an IRA account or issues setting up the account. So if people are having any issues and they need their questions answered, you can either go directly to your private equity associate, if you know who that individual is that you've been working with, or if you don't know of anybody or haven't been working with somebody, you can email us at private@startengine.com. Again, that's just private, PRIVATE, @startengine.com, and we can connect you with one of our representatives to help you with your setup or any investments that you have. So feel free to reach out to us, and we can help you to get things going. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other final questions. I think we've addressed most of them, other than some of the individual questions that maybe people were having on account setup questions. So figured it was just good to answer all of those together at once. But if there are no other questions, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to thank James, Tyler, and Brennan as well for their time and going over the slides and answering all the questions from the investors. Again, you can always go to startengine.com/private, where you can see all of the offerings that are available to invest in, and highly recommend everybody reach out to their representatives and set up times to talk about their portfolios or their accounts, to get everything squared away for you. And like I said, if there isn't anybody that you know who to reach out to, just reach out to us at private@startengine.com, and we'll make sure to get you working with somebody to help. So guys, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, thank you as well for attending today. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and look forward to chatting again soon. Take care.